We are now in session 8, which would be module 9 in the course, The Principles of Teacher Transformation. And we're going to be looking at how we can grow personally. And when you look at your lecture notes, there's going to be a hyperlink in there that says sharpen the saw. That video you should watch when you get taken to that page, because what it talks about there is how we are the most valuable asset to ourselves and to our family, and why it's so important for us to take care of ourselves. And because if we don't, we are of no use to anyone. If we're in a sick bed, or worse yet, potentially not here anymore. And when you look at this, there's really only 4 dimensions that we can work with. You have your physical dimension, which deals with, of course, exercise and managing stress. Your social dimension, which is your service, your empathy, and your relationships with other people, including those in your family. My goodness, I know some people that they had a squabble or a fight with a family member, and they don't talk to each other, and sometimes they haven't talked for 10 years. And it takes a real catalyst to want to bring 2 people back together again. Husbands get angry at wives, kids get angry at their parents, all going back to that piece that I call the imprint, where the child is unhappy and then they grow into an adult and they're still mad at their parents. We want to begin to understand things and begin to see life from another person's perspective. Remember, successful people can see life from another person's point of view and then work together to see life from the same point of view. Then you have the mental dimension, which involves, planning and writing, keeping a good schedule, trying to visualize where you want to be, doing a little more reading maybe. I mean, I read so much on the internet right now, and doing either a little bit of research or reading articles or what. The days are gone when someone picks up a newspaper or a book, but there are people out there who still like reading their hardcover books and their paperback books. And then you have the spiritual dimension, which basically is kind of private to some people, because they always believe that when you hear spiritual, that there's some form of, I guess, religion associated with it. But really what it is, it's a commitment to either meditation, you get involved with nature, maybe you do yoga, maybe you meditate, you do a bunch of different things, and you can kind of clarify and clean up your mind a little bit so you feel open. I mean, my feeling is I like to spend time myself in the morning in some prayer and meditation, and maybe read the Bible a little bit. That's my way of doing it. Other people have other ways of doing it, and whatever way it is, whatever makes you feel secure in that dimension, that's what you do. Now, how do you begin to do this? Some people look at this and say, this is pretty complicated. Well, it's really not. I mean, the physical dimension doesn't mean that you have to join a gym. I mean, it basically means you can do anything that just keeps you moving. I mean, if you have the ability, you can walk, run, calisthenics, weight training, jumping rope, keeping an eye on your diet, get the proper rest, watch your alcohol and tobacco use, no tobacco use at all if possible. And you have to do things in moderation. As I've grown older, I figured out what I can and what I can't do, and what produces pain or discomfort I just don't do anymore. That doesn't mean that I don't go out and take a 2-mile walk, or get maybe I can still jump rope, and you do a little bit of weight training, and maybe a few calisthenics, but you don't have to do it all in one day. You spend 15 or 20 minutes a day doing something different. I mean, it's not too hard to get out and just take a walk. I have found, now you do what you need to do, but I have found that exercise in the morning is the best, because it almost, for me, it relieves the anxiety of trying to figure out when I am gonna exercise. So, physical dimension is something that just keeps you moving and that you enjoy. And of course, you have skill activities where you can play basketball, you can play a little tennis, badminton, you can go bowling, whatever it is that keeps you moving. The mental dimension, you read a little more, you listen a little better, maybe you take a public speaking course. Try to understand the 5 types of listening. I have that hyperlinked here for you, and it's hyperlinked in your lecture notes. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get to this hyperlink with the presentation, but it is hyperlinked in your lecture notes. And write more. You know, the interesting thing, we spend a great deal of time formally educating our kids to be able to read, write, and speak, but we don't do a lot when it comes down to listening. And we have to help kids learn, and we have to learn how to listen better. Most people listen to respond. They don't listen to really understand. So what we want to do is we want to listen to understand. Listen to understand. We want to understand someone else with the hope that they will understand us equally as well. Social and emotional dimension. I go back again to this piece about a clear conscience. Having your mind clear, where no one, has anything bad to say about you. Rumors and gossip in a school don't do anything to help a clear conscience. Try to maintain positive relationships. Spend more time with your loved ones, because you have to learn how to balance work and family. And you have to learn how to be accepting. There are so many things that go on in this world that can make us or cause us to become, or would make us choose to become, just so opinionated about worldviews. And it does us no good, because some of the things that go on we don't have any control over, and it goes back to that circle of control and circle of influence. It's hard to learn how to give and receive love. It's not hard, I don't think, to love someone if you really know how to love them. But some people have a hard time receiving it. And it's good to be able to feel the love from someone else. That's your social and emotional dimension. And then the spiritual dimension. Remember way back in the first week, we had you do that motivational gift career inventory? If you're taking this course and you're not in education, maybe you're taking it and you're unhappy with where you're working, or you're unhappy with your career, try to determine your purpose. Sometimes your purpose isn't necessarily what your job is. Your purpose could be to be in a service industry, but maybe you don't want to work in a school, maybe you want to work in a hospital, maybe you need to do some volunteer work in terms of service. And you have to decide what this dimension looks like to you. The spiritual dimension. What does it look like to you? What is it all about? And how can you exercise it and let it grow in your life for transformation? This is a very important dimension. that gets neglected by most people. And for me, I've always looked at it and said, there's something bigger than me that's going to take care of this, and I'm not sure how it's going to happen, but it will happen. It comes down to faith for me, but it may come down to other things for other people. So as you go through these dimensions, and we'll just back up here for a moment, social and emotional dimension, you had the spiritual dimension, social and emotional, mental dimension, and the physical dimension. The idea is to balance the four of them. You know, if you're on a plane and you have two kids with you and something goes wrong and the oxygen mask drops down, they will always tell you as the parent to put the oxygen mask on first, because you may be the only one that's going to be able to help your kids get their oxygen mask on. So caring for yourself is important. I will also say this: if you are married and you have your husband or your wife at home, the idea, and then say you have children, the idea is to understand that if the two of you are okay, everybody else is going to be okay. If you're getting along with your wife, or if you're getting along with your husband and things are going well, everybody else is going to be fine. If you're looking out for one another and caring for one another, the both of you will care for the kids, and that job will become far easier. So understand that you are the goose that lays the golden egg. It is your work and your efforts that take care of the family. And that includes your efforts in every one of these dimensions. So bear that in mind. This is the last principle that we are going to cover. There are plenty of lecture notes that go along with it. There's plenty of videos and activities that go along with this, and discussion questions. Take a look at all of that, and then be ready, because what we're going to be doing at the very end is you're going to be putting together a program for yourself where you can take some of these principles and you can begin to figure out how you're going to plug it into your life. Okay, so be ready for that. That concludes this presentation.